What's up, everybody? I'm Nick. This is Sam.
Hello.
And Sam's cleaning up right now while we.
I just like playing with things. All right, never mind.
Hold on. Drop everything.
Yeah.
It's all good. So today we are going to be talking about how we got into cars and what were our dream cars along that journey.
So you could kind of figure out who you like more after this.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty
Personal
much.
Opinions. You can vote in the comments. But yeah, no, it's like one of those things. Like every car person definitely knows their story, and like I think I at least I know there was definitely like a moment that or a very clear circumstance where I definitely got into cars, and it was it was interesting. So, but some people kind of just progressed and this and that. But for me, I can point to very specific things.
Yeah, same here. And I think with this, it'll help our listeners kind of figure out what kind of car person we are,
where we come from.
Yeah. So when you guys hear us talking about certain things, you're like, oh yeah, of course you would say that.
Yeah.
Or it's like okay.
For sure.
Yeah,
so
sweet.
Here, why don't you take it away?
Sure.
Take us back.
I guess we'll do, instead of going from start to finish, we can kind of chunk it out. So I'll do the first phase, you do the first phase. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we can do that. I'm down.
Yeah. So we're not all getting caught up in one person's story.
For sure.
So I would say generally for me, the definitive moment that I started to see an interest in cars was probably in third grade when I went to the Anaheim Auto Show in SoCal. I went in there, and what intrigued me was one of the booths outside of the convention, or the main manufacturer area, I guess. Those little side booths, there's the Dub Show. It's from people from the art studio designing cars.
Oh, nice.
That's
right, because that's out there, the art.
Yeah, right in front.
Yeah.
It's still included.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I actually saw one of the renderings, and it looked, from my memory, which probably is terrible at this, it looked like Diablo, I think. I mean, who knows? But yeah, I saw some type of sketch of a car, and I was like, wow, that looks awesome. Why do the cars in this showroom floor not look like that? And obviously,
why do all the normal cars not look like a
why
Diablo?
Exactly. So obviously, I didn't know. So I was like, wow, these lines are amazing. This would be in my mind, I'm like, wow, this would be amazing to see on the road. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm starting to get interested in the design language of cars. I'd be started to get really meticulous of how cars are structured and designed. And that kind of started it. And then it went from that to other friends, older friends that got their license, and they started to get, the more entry-level enthusiast cars. Mm-hmm. The most noticeable one was your year, but not your year. It was a WRX, which was a standard.
Was
WRX.
it Bug-Eye, or was it?
No, it was after the Bug-Eye.
It was mine.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then after
Pagani or whatever.
Yeah, and the older guy gave me a ride. After being in that car, and he was kind of a hoonigan. He drove like an idiot, which kind of
any teenager with a WRX drives like an idiot. Don't kid yourself.
So he did the typical teenage mods, straight piped it pretty much. Straight piped it. Yep. He left the wheels pretty standard because he actually did track it a little bit. But one of my favorite memories was driving home from a late night McDonald's run, and there's this pretty steep hill in my neighborhood. But if you go up the hill, there's a little bump, and if you hit it at a certain speed, you get airborne.
What's it, about 70?
You don't even need to go that fast.
Really? Not even 70?
It's a pretty steep, because what happens is
wow.
It goes up a pretty steep, pretty much like a ramp,
and
then it flattens out for the intersection, and then it goes back up again.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a ramp. Even if you weren't trying to jump the car and you were going at a decent speed, you could probably get some air. So we pretty much were going pretty fast. We jumped it, and then the whole bottom end bottomed out, and it scraped. Yeah, it was apparently sparks were flying from the back, and I was like, this is awesome! Of course the engine's it's freaking loud in the car.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how it started, so for me.
Damn, I'm catching the bug. Mine, alright, so mine began, I guess, the preface to my story is the fact that I have OCD, and I've had OCD my whole life.
That's a real thing. Not like
no, yeah, it's not like, so I was never one of these OCD kids that was like washing my hands constantly. I was just somebody that when I get interested in something, I dive in. I just jump off the cliff.
You obsess over it.
Dive into it. There's no holding back. I learn everything I can about it, and I just have a tremendous amount of enthusiasm. So, like, when I was a kid, it started with, like, dinosaurs, and, like, I was into the Titanic, and then I was into helicopters, then I got into hockey, then I got into roller coasters, and as you see, we're gradually going into things that go fast,
Mm-hmm.
and then I eventually found cars by way of PlayStation 3.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, you know, and so I was, like, my obsession was, like, at the time, like, was like, hockey, and then I was, you know, back when I was a kid, it was Pokemon and Star Wars and all that.
Yeah.
And, like, that ties into cars because of just sort of, it's similar in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
even though it may not be exactly apparent. But, so, when I think I was, like, 11 or 12, and I got PlayStation 2.
Oh, yeah.
For my birthday.
That was one of the best systems.
Yeah. And I wanted it for the hockey game. NHL, 2K, whatever. But, so, you know, I get it. I set it up. I play the hockey game for, like, the first 2 months. And then, but it came with Gran Turismo 3. It was included in the box. I didn't even pick it out. So, you know, eventually I was just like, well, I'm going to try the racing game. See what this is all about. I'd been to car shows before. It was okay. You know, I played with Hot Wheels and stuff, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Had a couple model cars, but it was never really like the infection that it was about to become. You know, I started playing Gran Turismo, and I just, you know, I started just by looking through all the cars.
Yep.
You know, and you know, learning all the different manufacturers, and you know, seeing the different things. And I do remember the one that stands out is the Pagani Zonda was in that game. And that, I just remember, that was the first car I was like, wow, that is like a spaceship.
It doesn't even look real.
Yeah, like, and especially, like, to me, like, the novice, I'm just like, whoa, that thing looks like, that's got to be one of the really fast ones. It was, like, really low, really angular, and it had
sharp.
that, like, it had the, like, the dome glass roof.
Yep.
And it was just, like, I was stunned by the way that thing looked. But, you know, that, so, like, just learning all the different cars. But then, I think what really made the hook, like, set it for me was, you know, I was playing the game, racing the cars, learning the cars, and then I would go out in the real world and I would see the cars. So I remember, like, the first time I noticed a Miata, because that was one of the first cars I had in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I first bought a PT Cruiser because that was the only one I knew what it was. I knew what it was. So I bought that. I realized it was a piece of shit. Restarted the game. Bought a Miata because at least that was handled well. And then, you know, I remember I was playing with the Miata, and then I, like, on the way to a hockey game one day, like, I saw a Miata, and I'm like, oh, it was a Miata. And I realized, I'm like, oh, wow, this is all real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, damn.
Yep.
Got me interested. And so that, like, just the relevance of it really got me interested.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I started asking my dad all kinds of questions about cars, and he knew just a little bit, but just enough to kind of get me going. And I wound up just having to dive in on the internet and learn what, like, horsepower was, and, you know, all the different, you know, specs and stats and stuff. And I'm like, I dive right into that shit. So, like, that's my thing. Like, so any like data or, like, you know, stats that I can sink my teeth into are totally, like, up my alley.
Yep.
So, you know, so I just did that, and I kind of, like, self-taught myself on the internet. And what was interesting was a lot, you know, Gran Turismo didn't have the rights to a lot of these big manufacturers back then. Like, there was no Ferrari, no Porsche, no Lamborghini.
So you only had Pagani.
I had Pagani. I had Roof, which is like Porsche, like modified Porsches.
Right.
But, you know, I learned later the relationship of those cars. But, you know, it was interesting. So I kind of, like, found out about Ferrari and Lamborghini. And, like, I'd heard the names before, of course, and Porsche and whatnot. But I kind of really came to appreciate those through the internet.
Right.
And then I got, you know, other video games like Need for Speed that actually had them. But, you know, and this is me, he's like 12 years old or something like that. And, you know, so, like, but I just dove in, and it just totally hook, line, and sinker got me. And the first dream car for me was the Dodge Viper. And because that just looked, and it was the second gen, it was the GTS. It was like red in Gran Turismo, and I just like, it was like the sexiest thing I'd ever seen, and it was sort of attainable in the game. It's like $70,000. So I remember I did this one race like 50 times or so, because you won like $2,000 or something. So I like literally just had the little Miata. It was like a circular course, and I just like I taped the thing down, and it just went around the track. And awesome. it just like it was fast enough to win. It modded it. And the other thing is it got me into modding, because with Gran Turismo it was like you customize your car and you modify it and make it faster, and the whole idea that you could do that with a car was like, whoa, damn.
Yeah, you can make it
customize it. Yeah. And so all those factors, that got me just totally hook, line, and sinker, and that's where mine really began, was through that game and just becoming an obsession.
So you would say Gran Turismo was the game?
Gran Turismo was definitely the game, and then there were many games after that. Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit 2 was definitely the next big one, because that had Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Porsche, McLaren, and that had all the supercars that I'd seen online. Yeah. That I was like starting to gain appreciation for, and then I could drive them in that game, and I got that like, I don't know, a year or two later.
So would you say you were more performance based when you were younger, or were you more like aesthetic? Were you like interested more in the performance?
I was all about speed all the time.
Or like aesthetics?
Well, like in the game, because in the game you can drive them. I mean, the aesthetics are the first thing that catch your eye for sure, but like...
No, aesthetics as in like modding. I'm talking modding.
You couldn't really customize too much in that game. You could do wheels, and you could do like maybe like a lip spoiler, like functional mods. There wasn't too much like body kits or anything like that.
Got you. The reason why
that kind of came later.
The game that actually started me, like myself, getting like diving into cars was actually Midnight Club.
Dude, I loved Midnight Club.
Midnight Club 2, arguably one of the best soundtracks
and that
ever.
Didn't even have real cars in it yet.
It didn't. And it's like...
But it was all... You knew what they were.
Yeah, when they came... I was like, this is the Torino. I was like, I know what that car is.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Like, I was like, is that an Integra? That looks like an Integra.
Yeah, they look exactly... like almost exactly like the real ones.
On the cover of Midnight Club 2, it's a Saline.
Yep.
Even though they don't say it's a Saline.
Yeah, it's not like a Saline, but it is a Saline.
Yeah.
Dude, I actually did in 7th grade, I did a report using that game on Japan. We did like a tour through Tokyo.
Dude, you know that those maps are extremely accurate.
That's why I realized when I was like researching Tokyo, like I got assigned Japan, and like we did a tour through Tokyo, and I'm playing the game, and I'm like, we're in Tokyo, and I'm like, this all looks pretty real from the pictures I've seen. Yeah. Like, how realistic is it? And sure enough, like it's laid out really well, and like, so I just that was my report. And me and my buddy did this report. We toured the class through Tokyo. It was awesome. Yeah, and we got like a C because our teacher didn't like the idea.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Whatever. It was fun. Everybody liked it, except her.
LAX is extremely accurate to the T. Yeah, like when I was driving through one of the races, I was like, "This is exactly right." Oh my God. Mean, obviously it's not 100%, but like the main like terminal area, it was like almost to the T. Like Google Maps before Google Maps existed. This was like pretty good.
Did you ever play Test Drive Unlimited on Oahu in Hawaii? That map is accurate enough that when I went to Oahu, I knew my way around.
Dude, that's awesome.
It was so weird. Like maybe like side streets, not quite, but like the general area of the island and the landmarks that are coming up, and even like the major turns in the road.
You're like,
all exactly like
there should be a turn here. There it is.
It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe how accurate it was.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like when games do that. Like just so you can see yourself doing it. I mean, safely at the speed limit.
Yeah, like in real life, yeah, you can get around the island of Oahu in like an hour if you have a car that can cruise at 200 miles an hour.
Right. This game I have the Gran Turismo game. This is my first Gran Turismo game.
Oh, really?
Ever. I've never had Forza. At Forza, I've never had Gran Turismo until this, which is pretty late. So this kind of speaks to, I think, my interest. Like, I think aesthetically it has to look like, I'm not about the slam culture. Don't mean to offend anybody that is, but I respect it. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, if it's your thing, it's your thing.
Yeah, I like cars that look clean, but are like, okay, that looks functional too. Like, it's low enough where it's like sporty.
I don't mind a drop.
Yeah, but I don't like it when the wheel arches are like the wheels going into the wheel arch.
If I don't see any gap there, that tells me there's no room for that suspension to move.
Yeah.
And that means it's not really fast.
Right. So I think that kind of speaks to my interests versus Nick's when we talk about certain topics. Like, oh, like what about the interior? Nick's like, as long as it looks okay. I'm like,
yeah, as long as there's nothing like egregious about
like,
it that's disgusting and repulsive. Like,
and then for me, I'm like, oh, I don't like how these vents are looking. Like, who cares? It's like, I care.
No, yeah, for me, like, it's speed has always been the main draw for me to cars, and I think that's why I have the affliction of like the exotics as well. And it's a gift and a curse, just because like some of these are like so outlandish.
Yeah,
expensive.
like when you said Pagani, the first exotic.
Yeah.
Usually people will say maybe like a Mercy.
Yeah,
which is, I mean, that's still ridiculous at the time. But a Pagani is like a different. You're in the clouds. At that point.
like I think even the price in the game was like 750,000.
Was that like the
credits
best,
or whatever?
Was that like the best car you can get?
It was one of them. It was up there. There were way more expensive cars, but most of them were like race cars.
Oh.
But like of the street cars, that was one of the most expensive, and it was like almost $1 million. It was like 750 or whatever. But
that's a deal.
And then but yeah, like today, oh my god, like good luck get any Zonda under. You can't get a Zonda for under $2 million. Like it's just not gonna happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. But yeah, like, so the speed is definitely where I started. But so where did yours keep going from high school?
Let's talk. I know you briefly mentioned it. But
okay.
What was your dream car at that point?
The Dodge Viper.
Okay, yeah. And I wanted to make a comment on that. Did you ever look at the Viper and think it looks like it's collapsing on itself based on the design? Because the hood, the flow of the hood, kind of like pinches toward the middle of the car. This is where it kind of cuts.
Yeah, it does.
And the back kind of pinches into the middle as well. So it looks like someone like karate chopped the center.
A little bit.
To me.
To me, it just looks like really sleek. It's like that car is just, the lines on that thing are so sleek, and that's what drew me in. And like the Viper became like definitely my favorite.
That is a great first car that you would want.
First dream car.
Yeah, that's a pretty
and
solid.
It's attainable now if I wanted one, but
yeah. Now
you can get them for like $20,000 or whatever. Supposedly,
build quality is like.
But I don't think you.
I would totally get one though.
As maybe like a third car.
Yeah, I would get one though.
Like you have to have like. Yeah, I don't know. For me to actually own a Viper these days, you'd have to have a daily, and you'd have to have a fun car that's like a little bit reasonable.
And it's still not. It just still doesn't have that wow factor. I think. I think it has the wow factor, but it's only within the enthusiast.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean. Like when you talk exotic, like if you were to drive a Mercy, which is still older, and people look at it like, wow, that looks
people
crazy.
True.
If you see a Viper, they'd be like, oh, is that a Corvette? Like, not saying that's the standard we should choose cars by.
That's kind of true. They're the same flavor.
Yeah.
I remember one of my friends in high school, like when I was really getting into the Viper, he was like, him and his family were like Chevy people, and like we both had Gran Turismo 3, and we like became friends over that basically, and like he was like very much about the Corvettes, and we were always having this like Vet versus Viper argument in 6th grade before we could either of us.
What was the conclusion?
Well, for me back then, it was totally about the Viper, man.
Do no wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think either of us were going to change each other's minds.
Junior high, right?
This was junior high. This was 6th grade for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the Viper.
What was it before that? Did you have one?
Not really. I wouldn't say I had a before Gran Turismo was really when the switch got flipped for me.
Okay.
Before then, I mean, like, I'd appreciate, like, an old Thunderbird or something if I saw it on the street.
Yep.
Just because I'd been to some classic car shows when I was a kid. But, you know, like, in terms of, like, actually knowing what something was. I mean, I knew what, like, a Ferrari F40 was because I had the Matchbox car.
I didn't even know about that car until, like, 4 years ago.
Really?
I wasn't... Man. Oh, yeah. This kind of goes into, like, my first dream cars and stuff. Like, in elementary school, it was a Civic Si. In that... I don't know if you guys know that, like darker purple. Blue. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
no, the periwinkle color. Fuck yeah, that shit is awesome.
So it was that with a VTEC sticker on the bottom left panel from the side view with that wing, and just like That's it. Like I even like the stock wheels on that thing.
You should get one of those, man. You can get those.
Yeah, one of my buddies has it as a daily. I was like pretty jealous.
It's a sick
I was
car.
like, this is my child.
That was back like, dude, those Hondas drive amazing too.
Yeah,
like
that's
Honda,
like when Honda
real
was doing
stuff.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
in terms of like enthusiast focus.
Yeah, oh yeah, and they're coming back.
So that was my elementary school, and then so your junior high was.
Mine like kicked off with the Viper. I've always like my dream car. Like I would say I've had to split it between my dream cars and like a realistic dream car.
Yeah.
Because obviously like when you're in 6th grade and you can't drive and you just look at spec sheets all day.
Yeah.
And you love speed. The faster the better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's. I mean, a lot of people are like that now.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly right. And especially I think the taste obviously gets refined with experience. The more cars you drive, the more you experience, you start to realize, okay, 1,500 horsepower in a rear-wheel drive car with no assist might be a bad idea for like driving enjoyment on a normal basis. But I mean, I loved the idea of like the Hennessy Venom Viper 1000 twin turbo when that came out.
Yeah,
that's the sickest thing in the world.
Pretty crazy.
He put the body kit on it and it looked really like crazy and like the big wing. Like that was the shit, dude. When I saw, and that was like back on like like the earlier days with the internet, like in the early 2000s or whatever, and well, earlier days for us.
Sorry, the older
people. If you just felt really old, I apologize. That was like it was before YouTube. I was using like StreetFire.net, seeing all those videos and shit. It was nuts. But I would say at a certain point, my dream car stuff got kind of flipped to Ferrari.
When do you think that was?
I would say it had to, would say there was a mix.
Like high school, it's first.
No, it was still in junior high. I would say it was even probably like the next year, like 7th or 8th grade.
Dang, that's a big move, man. It's a big life.
Well, it was like I think I visited my grandma in La Jolla,
and she owns that 40.
No, they could probably afford one, but could have. Their grandma, R.I.P. But but they lived in Carlsbad, California. So we went to SoCal. We'd been going there, but the first time I went there when I was into cars was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Because there's like stuff running around on the road.
Like casually.
Like casual. Like we saw like a casual Lamborghini Miura. We saw like a casual Ferraris.
Even back then, I feel like Miuras are still...
Dude, it was. It was the first one I'd ever seen in person. We were like in a shop and I just hear this car and I see it go by. It was black with gold.
I'm sure it didn't sound very good.
It sounded amazing.
Really?
It was it was a loud, like, just amazing sound. And I just, like, I saw it out the shop window, and that was it. But I was like, oh my God, it was a Miura. Like, it was like, but, you go there and you see, like, your casual Ferraris and stuff. And then we went to this one, my grandma knew this one dealership down in San Diego, or in La Jolla. And,
La
Jolla, California. Which is a really rich town. It was a little place called Symbolic Motor Company, and I don't know if they're actually still around. I think they got bought out by somebody. But they had, we went in that showroom and they had everything. They had a purple Lamborghini Diablo SE30. They had race cars. And that was I think, that was the first time I really remember getting up close and personal with like a bunch of Ferraris.
Yeah.
Like I remember the first one I saw in person was just parked at it was actually I think my neighbor's car before I knew it was my neighbor's car, but it was just parked in like Princeton, and I was like, oh my God, it's the first time I've seen a Ferrari in real life. Yeah. But then like this time in like La Jolla, it was like there was a ton of Ferraris, and I really fell in love with like the 550 Maranello and the 575 Maranello.
I don't even know what those are.
They're the front engine, 2-seater V12s. They're like the modern F12 Berlinetta.
What was it called?
The Ferrari 550 Maranello. And so I guess the 575 would have been the car that was it was the evolution of that. But this car right here, that exact spec too, like red. That just, that had the similar kind of look to a Viper. Like, it's very sleek and, like, long nose and stuff. But, I was kind of captivated by, like, the Ferrari story and, like, all the, the pizzazz that comes with the Ferrari brand. And I just loved I came to like the GT car. And, that became my dream car. I would say that was my second dream car, was the Ferrari Maranello.
Nice.
Just... kind of
So this was
more
like,
refined than the Viper, I guess.
gotcha. So I guess this would be a good place to say that you were starting to get more mature in terms of what cars you liked.
Maybe just a little, or go higher end. Be like, oh,
Right.
if you get a Viper for $70,000, here's what you get for $270,000.
Gotcha. Yeah. And at that point, money's like, I don't even know how much this is.
Yeah. Well, then of course there's like the McLaren F1s and stuff like that.
You know, the funny thing is that never. Now I appreciate like why it's so symbolic. But at the time, I just look at the spec sheet and I look at the car. I'm like, it looks cool. I would still take a Mercy, but it looks cool.
Yeah, I remember. Well, I was also like, keep in mind, a lot of where I was coming from was like on the websites like supercars.net, fastautos.net, like those sites that are just filled with specifications. And I was going through and just looking at these different cars, memorizing the specs and stuff. And like I would say the McLaren F1 would probably come like soon after this. Because at the time, it was actually still the fastest car in the world officially.
Yeah, it's amazing how
it held the record for like 10 years.
Yeah, because I wonder who built that power plant, you know? It's just like...
I don't know, some Bavarian motorwork company.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay, Sam. Sam gloating about his BMW
No,
enthusiasm.
Here's Nick was
No, but I mean, like that car is
BMW.
incredible because it's like still the fastest,
and
naturally aspirated car ever made.
No traction
the
control.
design is absolutely insane.
It's very
It'll
timeless.
never be matched
Very
for
timeless.
what it was. I think.
Yeah. So my dream car, entry level, junior high-ish, was actually your car, your STI.
STI.
Yeah. What's that like officially? That.
It's the 2004 STI.
So like right after the Bug Eye. I still think to this day it's the
it's the Bean Eye technically, or Blob Eye.
Oh.
It doesn't have an elegant name.
Yeah, I think
it's just an 04 STI.
That was like my favorite dream. That was my dream car up until like halfway through high school. So it was like I really, really wanted that car, and I still think to this day it's the best looking STI they ever.
I agree.
It's just like performance. Yes, that is its own thing, but in terms of design, I think it's very. The fact that it has a direct lineage when you see the rally cars from back then, it's like, oh, I can buy that
1 for 1. Yeah.
And then now it's like it looks cool. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then but my super car dream car was actually this. It's the Ford GT. This
the GT90 concept.
Yeah, that never really hit
happened.
production.
Yeah, that was cool. Did you have the model of that?
I did. I had the model, and the first time I saw this, I was in a Ford dealership when my dad was buying a work truck, and I was like, I obsessed about this car.
They had the car in the showroom?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, dude, like, whoa.
No. It was just a poster.
Where was that? At Galpin?
No, right. Like, it was just a poster, and I was like, this can't be real. This looks like a Photoshop. This can't be real. Yeah. And I realized it was real, and I just like lost it. And of course, back then I was a huge American guy. Like my dad. So my parents are immigrants from Korea. Like they picked the most non-immigrant typical Asian cars. Like, I mean, I guess we're all adults here. You can you can kind of figure like, okay, what are the stereotypes of an immigrant, specifically Korean person? That like, come on, like. It's going to be a Lexus, like, at least one car is going to be a Lexus.
I was going to say Genesis?
No, I mean back then.
Oh,
you don't buy Korean back then.
Yeah, no.
It's going to be
definitely
it's
not.
going to be a Honda, Toyota, or Lexus.
Probably.
Like, it's like a pretty, you know, fair generalization.
Yeah.
My dad's first car was a Corvette.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
My mom's first car was a Lincoln Continental. And then my dad had 2 generations of F-150s. My mom had 4 generations of Suburbans. And then my dad, actually, for a short period of time, he had an F-350 Super Duty diesel.
Oh, shit.
So, like, we are not... So, for me growing up, I was like, America all the way. Yeah. Like, GM, Chevy, like, all the way. So, this car, to me, was, like, better than any Ferrari. I mean, spec-wise, no, but...
well, that's actually where it came from.
Yeah.
Better than any Ferrari. The Ford GT40 whooped Ferrari's ass.
Oh, yeah. They were
in the late 1960s.
In Le Mans for... they won first, second, and third, right?
I think it was... Don't quote me, but I want to say it was like first, second, fourth, and fifth.
Oh,
the first year they won. It was like... it was just a ridiculous sweep of the field.
Yeah.
Like... Oh man, but they won a few years in a row. Like it was like crazy how many times the GT40 won.
But it's pretty awesome. Didn't Ford want to like partner with was it Ferrari?
He tried to buy Ferrari.
Right, and then
he tried to buy the road car division, and Ferrari they had a falling out.
Yeah. I heard it was not very. From what I read, it wasn't very good.
No,
like, it wasn't
Enzo Ferrari, like so many things in the car world happened because Enzo Ferrari pissed somebody off. Yeah. Like that's the reason Lamborghini exists. That's the reason the Ford GT40 existed.
Yep.
That's the reason Bizzarini left his company, left Ferrari,
and went
to Lamborghini, yep. Made their V12 that they used from the '60s until the Murcielago.
Yep. And
then he also went on to do his own company, Bizzarini, as well as a few things like ISO and like a few other manufacturers. I'm spacing on the exact history, but
right.
You know, like if you think about how many other things, and I think there were other instances.
So Enzo should have pissed more people off. So
Enzo should have pissed more people off because that made careers, man. It literally did.
Yeah, he pretty much made his own segment by pissing people off.
Yeah, he did some epic things happen because he was an asshole. Like he's a legendary asshole, but he's an asshole. It's his persona.
Yeah,
that's what he does.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, and this is Nick saying this, not Sam. Just to be clear, if Ferrari's going to, blacklist anybody from their press cars or anything like that, just blacklist me. Whatever.
Even though Nick's a huge fan of Ferrari.
Oh, I love Ferrari. That's the thing with the Ferrari brand, though, that I love. Is like, yes, they're assholes.
Nick owns...
Would you change a thing? Absolutely not. That's who they are. That's what makes them great.
Yeah.
Nick I love the fact that that's like their thing.
Nick owns a red zip up with a Ferrari. He owns red Ferrari sweatpants.
I have a Ferrari phone case.
Ferrari phone case, and he has the Ferrari Puma shoes.
Absolutely not.
I'm just kidding. He doesn't. He only has the Ferrari phone case.
I have a Ferrari shirt and I have a Ferrari phone case that I got. It's not official Ferrari merchandise because
he only wears it at Cars and Coffee.
Oh yeah, exactly.
He's that guy.
You do that and then you get your Miata. It looks great. I remember this one dude. It's like head to toe in Ferrari shit, and he's just like, and then he's like walking to the parking lot, and I'm just like, dude, if you get into anything else, you're a tool,
right?
And he got it in an FF, and I was like, okay, I can't even be mad.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, like the Ferraris are. I mean, that's the thing is, I love the brand, I do, and that's part of what captured me and why I moved like from the Viper to the Maranello is just like the Ferrari brand has such a rich. Like, they just have such a rich brand image and a rich history.
Yep. Like,
there's nobody like them. They are the bar setter for the industry, even when they get beat.
Yep.
McLaren 720S walks all over the Ferrari 488.
Yeah.
But it's still not the bar setter.
Nope.
Ferrari's V8 is always going to be.
Completely agree. Just in terms of just the social influence, the performance, the everything. Like, Ferrari is the bar. Like, even... Like some interior pieces. I mean, I talk about interior a lot, but
it matters. You have to look at it every day.
Up until late, I would say like recently, their interior has upgraded tremendously. Yeah. But if you look at maybe 5 years ago, right? 5 years ago is fair.
I would say
their interior is.
Before 09.
Yeah, it was like, wow, how much is this car? Like, I hope the
ergonomics of their interiors and their design in their interiors has come leagues and bounds since the financial crisis.
Yeah, it was
say that with
freaking
confidence.
bad.
But some of their new interiors, I can't believe the ergonomics in their new interiors are great.
It's great.
It just fits so well, and
I was kind of scared when they were going to integrate like screens.
Yeah,
even though they're not that big.
There's like one knob.
Yeah,
that does everything.
I think that's
cool with that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I was really scared they're gonna make it like huge and like I was really scared
they've done a great job of keeping it simple. Yeah, and like it's. I mean, I sat in the Lusso last fall, and like that's as luxurious as anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like the big GT 4-seater, like that is just so. You have so much space, like. It's so comfortable. Everything is beautifully made. Like I think Ferrari is really at the top of their game right now. All right, as a sidebar to our conversation, I think they really are.
Oh God,
I love that. I mean, I know you're not a big fan.
No,
of the shooting brake, but I love.
No, I like it. I just like if I was shopping, I wouldn't buy one. like in this price point, but I like them.
I think I would.
I don't think.
If you're looking for a GT car,
yeah,
that's the thing. You have to be looking for like a GT car to really.
No, yeah, I understand. I'm not saying like this should compete directly with like a track focused.
Yeah, no.
I get what it's supposed to be, but I think it's like I'm not even.
I mean, price wise, it's that or a Rolls Royce Wraith.
I'd rather get
like that's the only.
I'd rather get a Wraith.
But they're so different.
No, they are different.
They're like, there's no like, they're not the same personality type that's gonna buy those cars.
Right.
Like, if you're like choosing between them, like it's one or the other.
But then being a Ferrari, I kind of consider you a Ferrari purist in a way. Like, isn't this the opposite of?
I love Rolls Royce. I love Rolls Royce too.
No, this.
What?
The Lusso.
No.
Because
Ferrari does GT cars.
When I think Ferrari, yes, they do GT cars, but like functional looking GT cars in terms of like a hatch style is really weird to me. I think it looks great, to be honest.
Well, that's where like a lot of like if you know the history like the big I'm GT cars are one of my favorite genres, so like I know like a lot of
Nick
like,
was schooling me on this not too long ago.
It's called a shooting brake. It's like a 2-door wagon, and there's been shooting brake special editions of cars like going back to like the 50s or even before. And honestly, I think I love the design. I think and for a real GT car, if you're really going to use it, it makes a lot of sense because the people in the back don't lose headroom from a sloping roof, and you have the wagon functionality.
Yeah.
Like for a real GT car, I think it's a really elegant shape, and I think it the practicality gain is also there.
Yep.
So I'm a huge fan of those, but Ferrari, a lot of people think Ferrari is like the main Ferraris are like the supercars, like the exotic mid-engine cars. Ferrari didn't make mid-engine cars until the 60s. And even then, those were the specialty ones. I mean, they're mid-engine cars. The 488 genre started in the 70s, with the, I think it was with the 308. And then you had the Berlinetta Boxers and stuff. And those were like, I think either really late 60s or really early 70s. But they've been making the front-engine V12 GT cars since the very beginning, since the early 50s.
I would love one.
Yeah.
I just love how those sound.
Oh, yeah. And that's the main thing. It's just, to me, that's the classic Ferrari. That's my favorite type of Ferrari. And I would say the Ferrari F12 or 812 Superfast.
Oh, yeah.
That genre, the front-engine 2-seater V12, that is still my number 2 dream car to this
The
day.
F12, I love the F12 because it's so subtle.
Yeah.
Like, whenever I ask someone that's kind of into cars, I'm like, what do you think about that car? I point at the F12 and, like, a Gallardo. And they're like, that looks like a normal Ferrari. Like, unless you know kind of how to spot one, it's like, oh, it looks like a regular Ferrari. Or quote-unquote regular.
And it's 700 plus horsepower and just
screams.
Insanity.
I think the biggest, like, when Jeremy Clarkson was reviewing it and he, like, showed the brake ducts and how they open in front, I was like, that is freaking badass.
No, that
is so cool. And there's, like, flats underneath the car for aero. And I know a lot of cars do that now, but, like...
That was one of the earlier ones.
Yeah.
I think it was...
I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that genre is just my favorite. Because the thing with that car, also the performance you get, it's a borderline hypercar in terms of, like, the performance.
For sure.
Or it's, like really at the top of the supercar realm in terms of the
like
level of performance. Flirting with, like, hypercar levels. Like, if you consider, like, a Huayra hypercar, like...
Yeah, I think
like,
that's a pretty fair...
it's damn close. It's not quite, but it's damn close.
Yep.
And, like, so that's, like, the top of the supercar tier. And it's, like, comfortable. And, like, it has everything. Like, I love that so much. So that genre of the 550 Maranello, which became the 612... which became the 599 GTB. And then that became the F12. And then that became the A12. That lineage is my favorite of the Ferraris, bar none. I would take an 812 Superfast over a LaFerrari any day of the week.
I would actually agree with you on that. I would love to have a LaFerrari.
I'd love to drive a LaFerrari.
Yeah, I don't know if I would.
For like an hour.
Yeah, it's
definitely... And then I would like to get in an 812 and go home.
That sounds so retarded to most people, but I get where you're coming from. Yeah. I would probably do the same thing
for like a real use and like on like real roads and stuff. Like
I would just be freaking scared to drive a LaFerrari. Like,
dude, I've heard the F12 is like hella scary too. Like I haven't driven one, but it's I know how much like the Cali T, that thing was struggling for grip too, and that has like 550 horsepower.
Yeah.
In rear wheel drive, I can't even imagine what another 200 horsepower is.
Right.
Like holy crap.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on.
Yeah, let's keep going
to your current. I guess actually your longest. Do you have like a longest dream car? Like longest, it's been a dream car for a while.
Well, that would be the current one.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, okay. Well, no, there's another part of the story. Okay. So I guess the next chapter of the story, and honestly, in terms of my dream car, has remained with this. I went. My parents took me to Italy. I think in 2004, summer 2000 or late summer 2004, and we were in Venice, and then we rented a car, drove inland, we went to Modena, and in Modena we went and visited Ferrari in Maranello, which is like 10 miles south or something, and I got to see all that. Ferrari up close, went to the museum, got to see a little bit of Fiorano, all that.
That's pretty awesome.
But they were still technically on holiday that day, and then the next day, everybody was back from like a long holiday. So the next day, me and my dad right after Maranello, my mom takes a nap. Me and my dad go look, and we're gonna go look for Pagani. All we were going by was like these directions in like an Evo magazine.
Nice.
And that's all we had to go by. So we're like in Italy. My dad half speaks Italian, and we're riding around. We actually found the office park Pagani was in, but they're in the back. They were in the back, and a tree had grown over the sign. So we went like up, and we're like, I don't think they're gonna be in here. This doesn't look like what we saw before.
Yep.
We didn't realize like they were one building. So like we didn't go back. We turned around.
Yep.
And we're driving around Bologna. We're screaming at each other. My dad's like, just give it up. And I'm like, no. And we're like swearing and yelling with the windows down. It's like 90 degrees out. And we keep asking people, like, where's Pagani? Some guy actually pointed us to his house. So I got to see where he lived. Like,
that's pretty awesome.
It was a pretty nice place. This was even before, like, this was 2004. This is before the Huayra was even, like, this is when the Huayra is, like, first being designed. This is before they have their, like, crazy, grandiose, like, place in the world that they have today.
Right.
You know, and like, you know, Pagani is still kind of just a curiosity at this point. And so, like, you know, we go and we wind up going home, and we're like, okay, well, we're just going to call them tomorrow when they're open, and we'll see where they're at. So the next day we called them, and they asked if we knew where that industrial park was. And we're like, yeah, we were there like twice yesterday. And they're like, okay, well, you got to go all the way to the back. So sure enough, we drive out there again, knew how to get there. And we drove all the way to the back. We saw the tree with the Pagani sign, you know, hanging over, with the tree hanging over it. And then we turn, and there's the Pagani factory. And like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was like crazy. So, you know, all of that fuss the day before became very much worth it soon. So we went inside the factory, and you know, they'd agreed to give us a tour and everything like that. So their PR guy met us. Horatio wasn't there, but it was their first day back at work after a long holiday, and we got to tour the whole place. We got to see a bunch of Zondas, and this was the era, you know, before they were as big as they are now. This is when the Zonda Roadster first came out. So even before the Zonda F, before all the Cinques and all that crazy stuff, you know, this is really when they're just kind of like really getting their stride. And it was awesome to see it at that point. There was people laying carbon fiber, and you got to see everything up close. We got to, you know, when I was 13 years old or 14 years old, and I got to sit in the car, and then they started it up for us, and you know, we got to see the Roadster, the Zonda GR, and a few things like that were the cutting edge stuff at the time. And that totally changed my life, and you know, made the Zonda my dream car, and that's where it sits today. You know, it still is, and I don't think it'll ever really be dethroned from my dream car.
Your dream car is pretty much almost arguably the top, arguably.
Yeah, I mean, because honestly, with all the new technology and stuff, like you know, that had a 7.3 liter naturally aspirated V12 that screamed.
Yeah.
Like, nobody really makes that kind of thing.
Nope, not anymore, especially with, like, environmental regulations and whatnot. It's not going to happen.
And I love the Huayra, but, like, it doesn't have the exact same sauce as the Zonda does for me. It's like, don't get me wrong, if the Zonda's a 10, the Huayra's a 9.9.
Yeah.
But
it's something about being the first one, too.
Well, yeah, and what I find crazy is also, like, the Zonda, they quote-unquote stopped making it in, like, 2009 or
that
something.
That one particular variation.
And yet they still make, like, 3 or 4 of them a year to people who commission the car. And from what I understand, the engine's out of production. So you have to have AMG custom build you this engine. You got to pay, like, a shit ton of money for that and the tooling and everything.
Yeah.
You got to pay all that. So these cars, these brand new Zondas, are cost more. Millions and millions. And I don't mean 3 or 4 million. I mean like probably 7 or 8 bottom price.
Wow.
And supposedly the ones the Barchetta that they just came out with that they built 3 of.
Yeah.
1 was Horatios, 2 were sold. Supposedly those were 15 million each.
Jesus.
Like, this car is still in demand. And because, you know, the other thing about it is it was designed originally. The Zonda was originally designed back in like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yep.
And that was one of the first concepts of it. So it was sort of like design-wise, conceptually, it's a peer of like the F40 and the F50.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It came about and actually was made in the time of the Enzo.
Yep.
And it's still being made and still sought after in the time of the LaFerrari.
So, like, in hindsight now, like, you can't even compare the cars anymore. Like, it's
There's
such
nothing
a
really that
level.
Compares with that.
Yeah, like, craftsmanship, I think we don't even need to argue that.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, they're just beautiful.
Like, performance, yeah, maybe. Like,
I mean, it's probably slow. It's definitely slower than a 720S.
Yep.
It's probably slower than a 650S.
Yeah,
even
but that's not why you buy that.
But it's manual. Like, you know what I mean? It's analog. It's a real.
It's an experience. Yeah. Like, you get to see the craftsmanship and you get to go fast.
Yeah. And it still tops out at like 214 miles an hour,
which is fine for anybody.
I'm good with that. It's lightweight, 2,800 pounds.
Yep.
You know, 650 horsepower naturally.
That's a pretty good dream car, man.
It's. I don't see it being unset. You know.
Yeah. I just want a modest E46. M3.
There you go, man. That is, dude. I envy you and anyone who has a realistic car.
I have a very weird approach. Like, supercars to me are great. I would love to have one, but they're not dreams cars to me.
Really?
Which is really weird, right? It sounds
It's not weird. It's enviable.
Yeah, it's so weird to me. Personally, I find extreme interest in, maybe it's like, I'm not trying to sound more noble, but like how you can inspire the general population and have them obtain things like that to keep. I don't know. That like really intrigues me. Like, I know supercars, you have to be X amount of money and, you know, things are going well for you, which is great. And I appreciate that. But I just love when I see, like, for example, like I'll just keep going with this BMW thing then. Like a BMW meet and you see people with like F80s now, or like before it was like the E46. And you see them meet up. They have like their own taste to each one. And I don't know. It's something special to me. Like just seeing that.
Yeah, no, dude, like I said, I envy you because I realize that not only, like, look, I could do phenomenally well in life.
Yeah.
I could be a multimillionaire.
And
I could afford to spend, like, even if I got to the level where I could buy, like, a brand new Murcielago or Aventador SV, you know, or whatever it is at the time, you know, I could spend $650,000 or $1 million on a car, I could still not afford a Pagani.
Yeah, which is
like not even half a Pagani. Like, dude, or like an eighth of a Zonda or some shit.
Just buy the hood.
That's how far in the stratosphere that car really is. Like, you could make it in life in every single way and still not be able to touch it. So, like, honestly, I would just be thrilled if I ever even just get to drive a Pagani for like 15 minutes. I'll die happy.
I'm sure you would have to pay lots of money if you had to pay.
You got to have a lot of insurance.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's the main thing. But
or really rich friends.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one of those things you got to just keep chasing. That's what you chase. You chase the goal that you supposedly can never catch, and maybe if you can, you find a way to catch it. Yeah. There are people out there that buy these things, and why not me? Someday I gotta
be friends with the Rothschilds.
The Rothschilds.
Yeah. They probably own.
Yeah, who knows? They've had some crazy cars over the years. I've seen some their
the,
classics.
Here's the thing, though.
Oh my god!
When they bring those out, I'm like, oh, of course you have that. Like, why wouldn't you have that?
Yeah, but dude, they had these two Hispano Suizas though. These pre-war matching twins. Like one was 4-door, the other one was a 2-door, and my god, these were displayed at Pebble Beach.
And I'm sure it was used in some battle, and it was it carried this particular person.
They had some crazy history behind them.
Sure.
But there was just oh my god, the way these things looked was there's not. I mean, yeah, when you get to a certain amount of wealth, it's crazy. But no, I'm with you, man. And that's why I've come up with I've had to come up with realistic dream cars as well as because
obviously
I know the Stratosphere and then a McLaren F1 if you want one of those right now it's a minimum of $15 million or something.
Well, even if you could afford the $15 million, just to maintain that car is ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
even if you literally have that in your garage for a year, you can't just let it sit there and change the battery.
Dude, at Pebble Beach in 2014, I watched someone turn down $10.5 million for a McLaren F1.
Wow.
It went to auction, didn't sell.
Wow.
The reserve was 11, and they was no.
It's the amount of money you have to put into that thing. Even I understand it. It's an icon.
Yeah,
for sure. But the brakes, you can't use that for over a year, right?
I don't know the exact.
Or 2 or 3 years. I know it's not a long time.
Yeah,
even if you don't use the brakes at all for whatever reason.
Yeah,
you cannot use them, or else the material. From my understanding,
some of the material degrades.
Yeah, it's something crazy red like that. So I was like, why would
all those really, really exotic cars have shit like that? That you
you just have.
They're not normal. They're not. Nothing about them is normal.
Yep.
And that's what you pay for. But yeah, no, I agree. And so, I was lucky enough. My first realistic dream car was the Subi, and my parents bought it for me. And I was very lucky, and I had that car in high school. And I would say high school is definitely probably the best time to own an STI.
Oh, yeah.
Just STI, because it's so juvenile, and you're juvenile, so it works. Whereas if you're a 40-year-old guy driving an STI, it's okay, dude.
Top three cars that a teenager would love to have.
Yeah.
STI, Evo, and I would say a Mustang.
Yeah. I would say those are the three.
Those are pretty cliche.
Those are pretty much, yeah.
You're it.
If it's not if you're not into trucks, sports cars,
right. People would, if you ask me in high school, would I take a 5.0 Mustang or a 335i? I'd probably pick the 5.0.
Yeah.
Just because it's more hoonigan-ish.
Yeah, and was a kid in my school that had an Evo. There was a kid in my school that had one or two kids that had a Mustang. It was the same basic deal. Their parents bought it for them. My school was one of those kind of schools. But, it was definitely the time to have that car. I survived. I still have the car 10 years later.
That's
knock on wood.
Because
there was some kid a year or two after me that got an STI too, and he threw it into the woods in 3 weeks.
That's not even surprising to me. That's seriously, I'm oh, of course that would happen.
Yeah, no, you have to go into it smart if you're gonna have one of those as an early car.
You say that now, but when you think you're smart at that age,
no, I was always very careful. Honestly, I purposely waded into it. I was going fast, but in terms of the turns and stuff, I really waded into that, learning how to push harder. I never went
you're
balls
very
out
oddball.
Crazy. No, yeah, I've always had a healthy sense of self-preservation, which is good.
My school was pretty like that too, pretty well-off kids.
Yeah,
or upper middle class, and then one of my classmates, he had one of the first ISFs.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's talking about a dangerous car to have in high school.
Yeah, but
all that power in the rear wheels,
man.
Yeah,
he had the most. Actually, this is a fun topic, really short topic. Top 3 most ridiculous cars anyone in your school had. They could be a freshman, or they can't technically. A junior, in your time in high school, what were the 3 most ridiculous cars that a student regularly drove? It couldn't be they happened to listed them. Oh, that was
for my school. I, for the most of the time, had the fastest car, and then the kid who still had the Evo sold drugs, I think. So he did make his car faster than mine at a certain point with
gotcha.
the mods, I think. But
so it was an STI Evo,
and Mustang. But the
Okay.
Mustang had like an exhaust. It was like a 4.6. Like 4.6 is never fucking with me.
Still,
Like
that's cool.
They're not that fast.
I mean,
Unless they're supercharged, they're not that fast.
yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, no, that was about it. I mean, there was like I think it was a couple kids that had like GTIs and stuff. But in terms of like fast, like impressive cars, there was well, I guess there was other that's like one kid had like an S class. Like that was like bitching, but like it was like a couple years old, but it was still like at the time it's probably still like a $70,000 car.
Holy!
So he had that, but like it wasn't like fast. Like one day he tried to get into it with me on the way back from Rita's, and I blew his fucking doors off.
Yeah, but
like it's an S class.
Yeah, that's different. It's a different thing.
But like so we had like that kind of shit. But in terms of like speed, there wasn't really.
Or no, just
my
like
car was one of the faster ones.
Like performance enthusiast car, but they're like rich. You know what I mean? Like a 335 is quick, but it's also like I guess expensive.
A lot of like there was one girl in my school whose dad had a lot of cars. Like he collected cars. Like he's clearly wealthy enough and everything, but she wasn't like into it or anything, so she just had some whatever.
Yeah, I had a.
Yeah, what about your school?
We had some pretty well off middle upper class Asian people.
Damn.
So the ISF was one of them. This is like when they first came out with this ugly ass quad tips.
Yeah.
So we had that.
This is like back in like 07, 08.
Yep. Yeah. So ISF was one of them. The most expensive car I've seen someone casually drive was a Lotus. A girl drove it a Lotus, totaled it, and then got a Z4M.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But she was like, yeah, I don't know where I never really got to know her, but I just know she had obviously had a lot of money. And then the next most expensive / performance car would probably be a Mustang GT. This is right when I think it was 2008 when they brought back like the retro styling.
Yeah. That was that generation. It was 05 when they first did it.
Yeah, and he had the bigger engine. Was it 5.0?
Yeah. Oh, he had a 5. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting. You are like 2 years younger.
Yeah, he had a 5.0.
So he must have had the first of the 5.0s.
Yeah, and I was like,
so that was more like 2010.
Yeah.
Or 2009 or
That's exactly it. And he had one of those, so I was like, wow. And I drove a Suburban, so there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cart all your friends around with you. But yeah, I mean, so like, yeah, I guess the other thing is like, so realistic dream cars at this point, let's say like 5 years down the road.
Yeah, let's end with that.
Yeah, let's end with it. What do you think for you 5 years down the road?
I
like realistic-ish dream car.
Okay. I would say I really don't have a particular one pinpointed yet, but I'll give you top 3.
Mm-hmm.
R35 GTR. And I know you have your reservations about that car.
They're my own.
R35. I never even considered this until I legitimately started talking to you and other people at work. A Porsche Cayman S, the 981 particularly.
That's a lot more fun than a GTR.
Trust me. All right. Anyway, so those two,
unless you're on a racetrack.
Just little notes.
Even probably on a racetrack.
Just a side note. I appreciated Porsches, but I never ever considered one until like a couple months ago, like ever in my life. I understand their performance.
Because you're worshipping at the altar.
Yeah, but it's their interiors are like so. I know
they're basic.
Yeah, but I understand that's not the main reason why you buy those, but that's like one of the criteria I have. But yeah, it would be that or
Dude, you need a Rolls.
That or an
that Starlight headliner, bro.
Yeah, right. No, God, I don't even like that.
Oh, I do.
Much. I think it's so posh and cool, but I would never want
so
one.
Much.
I'll get an M4.
M4? Yeah, that's a good way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I guess, realistic dream cars. I mean, I think the Alpha Quadrifoglio.
Ooh.
If the depreciation curve and everything lines up,
is in projection with typical Alphas.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Most
essentially, yeah. That would be a car I'd be willing to maybe go down to 2 cars for.
What about a 4C? Get rid of the Miata.
A 4C? Alright, so a 4C is actually, especially after I first drove it, I was like, oh my god, I need to make one of these in my life. The problem with that is just where I'm at in life. Like,
that makes sense.
Me and Gab have talked,
that's
5 or 6 years from now, we're going to start having a family.
That's like a third car.
You can't, like, have a kid or two and justify spending like
that much
even
money.
if it's like $30,000. Like you can't justify buying like
it has to have
a
some
fucking 2-seater with no trunk.
Yeah, there's like no function to that car.
Yeah. So like a 4C maybe once like the kids are like old enough that they don't need car seats and stuff, and that would be like more
it's
like
safe,
I would
though.
say that's more like 10 or 15
Carbon
years
tub.
down the road. But yeah, like a quadrifolio that could have a car seat in it within 5 years or so.
That's
or
a good
like
choice.
Or like a Lexus, the ISF or the GSF or
Solid.
an RCF.
Or
One of the F models I would really love. And then I guess if I was going to swap out the Miata for whatever reason, I don't really plan to, but and maybe consolidate toward the sports car end.
Yeah.
That could actually maybe be a 4C if I did it that way. If I had just like a practical family car and I moved all of my car fun into one car.
Yeah.
And replaced the Miata,
But
then
like,
it could be a 4C,
like
or it would be like a Boxster or
You
a
have to
911.
have some type of like practicality to the cars you're gonna
I
get.
kind of agree though. Yeah, like a 4C is like almost too
that's like
impractical.
Yeah, that's like too impractical.
Like at least a Porsche has a back seat.
Yeah,
and like,
a decent frunk.
Yeah.
Like
it's 911 you could actually
go grocery shopping.
Yeah. And I would probably wind up
like a 4C is like you're a go-kart. That's all you are.
Yeah. And so like if for that move it would probably be something like a Porsche 997 Carrera S or something like
That's
that.
Solid.
But honestly, I'm a fan of having multiple cars, and I love the Miata. So
okay, who's not a fan of having multiple cars?
Well, it's not for everybody. A lot of people don't like the hassle and like having to manage it and stuff. And don't get me wrong, it's a pain in the ass sometimes. But it's like you have 3 experiences, and I don't necessarily need to stay with 3, but in the foreseeable future, it would take the right car to get me to go to 2. You know what I mean? And it would be something like a quadrifolio.
You could do 3, because once you're married, your wife will have.
The total situation will have 3 or however many.
5.
But 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
No, I think I've got a hard cap in life at 3. I don't.
I think 3 is a good
desire
number.
Anymore. I had 4 for a brief period.
That's stupid.
In 2016.
That's dumb.
I had 2 Miatas. I had my old Miata, and I had the new Miata, and I had the STI and the CC. And for that period, I realized 4 was too many.
That is dumb.
It just, you couldn't drive them all.
Well, it's because the 2 Miatas kind of have a similar driving experience. Yeah, You can argue that they have slightly different, but like if you're talking,
like if I had that and instead of the other Miata, like a truck or something, or like an FJ Cruiser,
that'd be perfect.
That'd be some sick. That'd be sick. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like the money adds up too fast.
Yeah, insurance.
It really does. Like it's already even 3 is like, you got to justify it to yourself.
Yep.
Because like it is, whatever. But
yeah,
that's so yeah. For me, in terms of like dream cars, it's like it sort of depends on how many we're talking about.
Yep.
But yeah, a quadrifolio would make me go to 2.
Dude, I would be pretty impressed.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So on that note.
Yeah.
That's
how we got into cars.
That is how we got into cars.
We'll probably touch on like, little aspects as we go on, but
yeah, totally.
It's kind of like
that's the
intro story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there are tales.
This is number 10. So
number 10, yeah. So we are gonna start syndicating in other areas of podcastdom. We're looking into exactly where and how and what. So look for us on various things. We'll let you know where in the coming podcasts.
Or comment on where we should if you are a podcaster.
Yeah, if you recommend, please, we will take those recommendations. But we just wanted to get 10 episodes in before we really, decided to. We wanted to make sure we were serious first.
Saw, dude.
You know what I mean?
Saw, dude.
Alrighty, so your Instagram is?
Sam X Chun.
My Instagram is mindovermotor_official, and I run, we are mindovermotor.com. Check us out for all kinds of fun car-related things.
Sounds good.
Sounds good? All right.